All right, I'm gonna get started. Thanks everyone for coming. My name is Robert Grazioli. I'm one of the co-founders of Density, and I lead our product design efforts. Going to go through a couple of things today. One, just generally, who is Density? What is Density? Why are we here? Then I'm going to go through analytics in general and how we feel we've been able to help a lot of our customers make informed decisions about their space and their real estate, ultimately driving better patron happiness and more cost-effective building management. I'm then going to show just very specific, like some specific implementations of that in our actual tools, so you get a flavor for the tools that we use to actually make those decisions. And then I'll open it up to Q&A, and you can ask me whatever you like. All right, so some quick company background. We started back in 2014, feels like forever ago. But ultimately, we felt like the technology we selected could make a meaningful difference for people in all industries, ultimately helping them improve the efficiency, security, and really the overall experience within their portfolio. We have a manufacturing facility right out of Syracuse, where the company initially began. That's sort of our pride and joy. Helps us build and deploy practically on demand. What we build is a highly advanced people counter. It's not a camera, so we're not really tracking any personally identifiable information. It's sort of the cornerstone of our data set. It's real time, and we also calculate occupancy, so it's not just entrances and exits inside of the building. We actually display the count in real time, and of course we deliver that all through an online dashboard and an API that one can use to build their own reports or integrate into their own infrastructure. So again, I'll really just be touching on how we use the data from a sensor like this to essentially optimize and improve one's portfolio. Just a quick look at our customers, just varying industries. Again, the commonality here is that they have a lot of space, or their space is extremely valuable to them. Yeah, this is all about optimizing that space, but also improving the employee experience. So this is one thing that we really like to lead with. A good space is one that serves the people that occupy it, and all of your decision making really should be driven by feedback from the people occupying a space or the people running the space. But ultimately, we very much advocate for future planning. So real estate's obviously really expensive. People have hiring plans. We have the ability to predict data over time after enough has been collected, and we've seen some of our customers save millions by not making a decision. So it's not always about the decision you make. Sometimes it's about the decision you don't make. And obviously, having a real time and constant understanding of your space in any moment helps you make decisions in the now, if lease terms are up or something like that, and ultimately reduce your real estate costs. Okay, so I'm going to dive into the demo quickly. Bear with me as I change screens, but we'll really keep the focus on conference room efficiency, overall desk use, and building occupancy at large. Okay, yeah, I'll start with our analytics platform. So what you're looking at here is a building that we call Albuquerque HQ. This is demo data. It's modeled after real world data. So it's quite realistic in its outcome. What we really want to focus on here, though, are the actual floors. So Albuquerque has 4 floors. The 4th floor is a conference room, so I can remove that as well. You can see the spike around lunch. Sorry, I said conference room. I meant cafeteria. So you can see the spike around lunch. That's sort of people going to lunch at that time. But what I'm focused on here are the actual occupants over the course of the day. You can see on the 1st floor, people leave after lunch. That's something that we actually see a lot of across the portfolio. But what I'm looking for here is, what's the opportunity? Is there space to add people to these floors? Does our hiring plan actually support that or require that? So we have a derivative metric here that we call available capacity that helps us point that out really clearly. So the higher numbers are how many seats are actually available at a given time of the day. And you can see that usually days peak around 11 and noon, and then you get some trickle off after that and slowly slump down to zero. So you can sort of focus on that peak. And then what we do is we take like an average cost per person that a lot of our employees have, and we can actually display the potential cost savings, or rather, how much money you're spending in excess, given the amount of seats available at that time. It's really easy to adjust that. Again, typically, we just do like swag averages. A common range is 200 to 300. Some of our WeWork customers, might be around 400. And again, you just get a really simple way to identify your space savings. We also focus on neighborhoods, or we call neighborhoods. These tend to be seating areas. So you can see, you can actually use density in these open areas and carve out nooks to identify how people are using open seating. Obviously, that's a really common desk implementation these days. I'll touch on how you can evaluate that even more. Typically, people are looking to save space and increase collaborativity. So you can, again, just kind of do the same thing here. Just see desk use over the course of the day, and make decisions on allocation and occupancy. You're able to do the same thing with conference rooms, but we actually have a series of really convenient reports one can use to validate those. Before I dive into conference rooms, I just want to show a really common metric people use to evaluate how they're doing, is typically to measure themselves against square feet per person goals. So averages are around 150 to 175, and you'll see that shrink even more with open office plans. So we take our third, second, and first floors, and we can calculate the people per square foot on those floors. A common takeaway, is just, is that enough space for people? Is that an area we can use in our recruiting initiatives, that like, hey, we're delivering a work environment that's that exceeds the industry average. If we dive into conference rooms, we can actually see the overall time in use. So this is any amount of time the room is occupied. In this particular example, we have heavily occupied rooms. So this is a really clear indicator that, hey, you might need more resources for your people. But you also want to look at how many people are actually occupying those spaces at that time. So one common thing that we see is, you have a room that's for 10 people, you have a room that's for 12, 6, 8, 4 even, and one person's in that room a lot of the time. This is obviously increasingly pertinent as remote work becomes more important. You see a lot of offices closing down right now, and people are working remotely. So you'll see meeting sizes shrink, but these rooms haven't adjusted accordingly. So we can identify that, and you can rearrange your portfolio, or rearrange your space design to better accommodate for the types of meetings that are happening. So that's the demo. If you guys have more questions, please reach out directly, and happy to set something up with another Density team member to sort of run you through all the different permutations of reports one can create within our platform. So again, brief summary, Density really strives to make it really easy for people to identify how much square feet are actually in use, and the resources that are performing best. The goal being to try to iterate and change your space to better accommodate the people within it. Oh, I just realized I'm not sharing my screen. There we go. Cool. So just to quickly recap, again, the data that we're producing is not RGB based. So we produce these depth values, and we're just looking at these blobs on a screen. They're clearly human, and all we seek to identify is whether or not they are human or not. We ignore things like doors, like desks, and really focus on the person. So what you're seeing here is sort of what our device sees, and then after our algorithm is done with it, you can see we've removed all the objects but the people, and that's how we're able to produce such accurate count. Um, it's highly accurate, and this is really, we pour just hours and hours and hours into refining the algorithm, uh, iterating on different configurations for different environments. And obviously we wanted to design something that, it had to be visible. So we wanted to make sure it fit into people's environments seamlessly. Um, uh, so again, no PII. We really focus on security as well. So we have an expanding tailgating use case where we can help identify unauthorized access into buildings. We routinely uh, see plus 95, 97% accuracy on all of our installs. And we really tout our real-time availability use cases. So we see a lot of our customers actually integrate our data into their own systems, less so using ours. And that's really our goal. We want to deliver tailored experiences to a lot of our patrons, and we feel like our API and our data enables that very easily. Okay, any questions from that? There's a little icon down in the Zoom area. It says Q&A. You can submit questions there, and I'd be happy to answer any. So one of the questions coming in, how do we deal with install and support? So we work with third-party installers, and we also have an internal team that helps address any exceptions outside of the norm. Other than that, it's a fairly simple installation process. It's like installing a lamp on a wall or something like that. You do need network connectivity, but we support Wi-Fi and hardwire. Um, uh, how can we automate analytics reports to email colleagues who don't have and don't really need their own density login? That's an awesome question. So one of the dashboards I showed you with the square feet and the conference room level reporting, that's what we call a dashboard. It's essentially a report one can make recurring or one time. And you can actually schedule emails. So just send out weekly or monthly, whatever interval you'd like. It'll send it out to your colleagues, so you don't have to have them log into a system. Is it possible to monitor occupancy of an entire space or a building within multiple access and exit doors available at the same time? Yeah, so again, while the device is threshold based, we sort of map all those different devices together. We can produce count over any number of spaces. You can even create abstract spaces that aren't connected. So that's one thing that we typically go through with customers, is like this weird learning phase where you have to think about space abstractly, and you can do some pretty creative things. So yeah, we can deliver occupancy um, uh, regardless of how many doors a space has. Can we set up a learning based on specific parameters, and how customizable is this? Um, yeah, actually you can. You can set up entrance and occupancy based alerts. These alerts can be SMS based if you use our dashboard, but you can also get push notifications if you use our mobile application. So occupancy alerts, you can essentially set a threshold. And if the occupancy exceeds that threshold, we'll send out a text alert. We see this used a lot in lounge or hospitality use cases, where you have to sort of dynamically staff a space accordingly. And then you can also alert based on entrances. We see that in some security use cases and so on. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have. I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, please feel free to reach out at any point. Happy to set up a demo or answer more of your questions. Enjoy your days, everyone.